Storytelling is a universal human experience. One can argue that storytelling is almost as old as the development of language. The earliest stories could have been in the form of cave drawings. Stories transport knowledge and morals, and have been passed down from generation to generation throughout history to educate, entertain, guide, inspire, preserve history, and deepen understanding. We tell stories to explain our experiences. When we share stories, a phenomenon called neural coupling happens where our audience's brain neurons fire in the same patterns as the storyteller's brain neurons. As a result, our senses, thoughts, and emotions become aligned. Listening to stories engages our emotions, and the engaged emotions not only create empathy with the storyteller but makes the stories memorable. Stories go beyond an event, they help the audience to gain a glimpse of reality and shape their perspective of the world.
Information by itself could be detached, tedious and forgettable, but when embedded in the structure of a story, they become memorable and more pleasant to follow. Studies of functional magnetic resonance imaging of the brain show that when we are presented by information alone, only 2 of our brain regions light up. However, listening to stories provokes many additional areas of the brain to become activated as if the events of the story were actually happening to us.
Stories teach us about the experiences that worked, the reward for showing forth the human values and the consequences of neglecting them. Oxytocin is a natural hormone that acts as a neurotransmitter. Storytelling increases the production of oxytocin, which is responsible for empathy, compassion, trustworthiness, and social cues. Therefore, when we are engaged in a story, it can influence us to desire to act.
Choicest Fruit uses stories to illustrate the significance of practicing human values in the process of technology development and technology use. The stories impel the listener to think about the application of stories to the area of technology development. Technology, like any other tool, is neutral by itself and its impacts are contingent to the user. Choicest Fruit endeavors to use stories to engage and encourage individuals to think about the impacts of existing or new technologies in order to help determine if they are used for the betterment of humanity or for its destruction. The more we use stories to engage people in technologies, the more we help developers and tech users imagine how these technologies can be used to create more equitable, just, and peaceful societies. Essentially, moral stories help create technologies that reflect human values.
Recounting stories about the role of technology in social progress is a strategy Choicest Fruit employs to propel and direct constructive progress. We help tech developers and tech users make effective and compelling changes by documenting and sharing relevant stories that weave human values into the process of technology development. Without stories, we are at the risk of repeating the problems from the past. Maybe part of the reason that injustice, bias, and inequality still exist in the tech world has to do with not telling honest and real stories. Let us think of cases where history repeats itself today. Why does this happen? Can it be traced back to something that went wrong with our storytelling?
Sharing stories in technology development contributes to ensure that reality is expressed accurately. When we realize that stories have power, a sense of responsibility is created and our capacity to use this power grows constructively. When we only consume stories that depict our lower nature, we contribute to a culture that suppresses the development of human values. But when we consume stories that reflect our higher nature, we create a society that profound and empowering stories shape reality.
The speed at which new technologies are being developed and adopted has created changes in behaviors, lifestyles, economies, and the way we communicate with each other. New technologies have introduced uncertainties, risks, vulnerabilities and even a crisis of identity for those who find themselves or their industries struggling to adapt quickly enough to the changes brought in by new technologies. Storytelling connects and reminds us about the meaning of tests and difficulties in life. As our understanding about ourselves and our relationships with the world evolves, new stories are created, and inspirational spaces are open to inspire humanity in its journey. The stories we share allow for accurate depictions of who we are as a collective.
Storytelling is a crucial part of helping humanity navigate an uncertain future because it supports tech developers and users to envisage what the future could look like if we walked down a certain path. With stories we can show the ills that exist in society and the ways they can be remedied. Stories guide tech developers and users to identify and articulate shared values, ideals, and a collective vision, and enable them to better navigate uncertainty. The positive stories we share at Choicest Fruit have the potential to diminish fear and give tech developers and tech users greater confidence, clarity, and conviction in fighting for the world we want to live in. A world where everyone is contributing to write a piece of the bigger story of technology development, which promotes humans' life and extends their capabilities.